Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Actually, we're outside right now, and the reason for that is because it's turning out to be spring. It's going to look really nice. The weather person tells me that mid this week, we're going to be in the double digits. So that means I need to take off my winter tires. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to show you guys how to service the rear brakes on your modern Mercedes without using a scanner. It's going to be fun, so stick around. So today's example, guys, is my 2017 Mercedes-Benz CLA 250. The procedure that I want to do, showing you guys how to use the car itself to open up the rear brakes without a scanner, will also be applicable to the GLA model and as well as the C model. But in order for me to even explain to you why we need to do this, let's jump inside and I want to show you quickly why it has to be done to service these brakes. Alright guys, so if you're not familiar, the park brake on this vehicle, actually most of the modern Mercedes-Benz vehicles are active pretty much all the time. And what I mean by that is you can see it on the left side there. The car's running, the park brake's already activated. So in order for me to do anything, it's actually quite simple. I'm just going to flick it into drive here. And as soon as I touch the gas, the park brake disengages. Now, as soon as I stop here, car's still running and I open the door, it activates automatically. So it makes it really difficult for anybody to service the rear brakes because they are always active. So as soon as you stop the car, for example, let's get this back out of gear or into gear and out of park. Now we're parked, it's not activated. If we turn off the car, they activate again. So again, if you were to service these brakes, you would not be able to because they are completely seized technically onto that rear caliper. So let's put the car in the hoist and I'm going to show you exactly how you need to do it. Alright guys, before we get too far, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, liking the video, sharing it with your friends. It means a whole lot to the channel, and that's all I wanted to say about that. So let's get started by cracking all these lug nuts free. And I'm going to be doing it with the power bar, and the reason for that is because there's a special tool for these wheels and it's very, very thin. So if I start using power tools on this, I stand a real big chance of splitting this socket, and then we're going to be dead in the water with our winter tires on in the summertime. Not really cool. So let's go ahead, crack all of them loose, and then we'll be able to pick it up, put it in the air. Oh, there's one. These are nice and tight. All right, and last one. Come on, there we go, perfect. All right, so we got all the lug nuts loose. We have the lift ready to pick up the car, but I also have, if you notice over here, a battery maintainer on the battery because when we're working, I'm gonna have to keep the key on and I don't want to drain my battery. So that's all connected, but we're ready to lift it. We'll start with the front brakes because they're actually pretty easy. So let's just do those first. That seems like a good working height. So let's start with this wheel. Alright, so the one thing I don't really like about Mercedes and Volkswagens and German cars is they have a bolt rather than a stud. It makes it a little bit more difficult to get your tire onto your wheel. So this is a 17 millimeter, not an inch, 17 millimeter wrench and a 13 millimeter bolt. Get both of these off here. You're going to want to disconnect your sensor from the caliper as well, so you don't damage that. Okay, now another little thing that I always mention is I'm using a couple of zip ties hanging from the suspension here, because you don't want to hang your caliper simply from that hose, because these are a little bit heavy. You'll just put more stress on that hose that needs to be there. So just like that. A bungee cord works well too. Now we're going to remove our pads.
So quiet.
There we go. There's one. So now we know. I have a video to go by, but I mean, if you want to remember, the one with the sensor is on the inside. All right, now we're gonna get everything ready so we can pull the disc off. This is gonna be tight. There we go. So these are kind of like a special bolt. I don't have the right socket, but a 14 mil socket seems to fit just fine. There we go. Now we can remove the disc, and it's held in with one T30. Beautiful. That came off nice. So let's take all of this to the bench and clean it up. So we got our pads sitting here on the bench, as well as our disc, and we're just going to clean it up. The car's been sitting for the whole weekend, so that's why we got a little bit of rust buildup here. But more importantly, I just want to kind of take any of the glazing off of these pads and just give them a nice bite again. And I'm also going to clean up the bridge. I call them a bridge, I'm not sure. Actually, comment down below if you know what the real proper term of this is, because I forget for some reason. And I'm also going to lubricate the pins here with some proper lubricating stuff. So all I have here is, this is 80 grit sandpaper, and I also have a block of wood that's been filed nice and flat. So I'm just simply going to put the paper on the back of the wood, and nice and easily, not too hard. I'm just gonna, like I said, just take the glaze off of these pads. I don't need to necessarily wear these down. And that's about all I want to do. I'm going to clean this up with some parts cleaner as well. And just in comparison, this is what you get. So that's what you do after sanding it about, 10 strokes or so. So we'll do this one as well. But we're also going to do the very similar method on the disc itself. And I'm just going to, again, just to get some of these minor ridges away, it's going to go across the whole disc. I don't want to use any power tools for this because I don't want to leave any dents or any grooves. So this is going to take a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, but we're going to clean it up, and I'll show you what that looks like when we're done with that. But there's one important step that I don't want to miss showing you guys, because this here is kind of an important part of your braking system in ensuring the brake pad wear to be even. We can tell that these are wearing out perfectly even. We want to maintain that. So let me go get all of my lubricating stuff. So this is just a little bottle of brake lubricant. You can get it from your parts store, your local parts store. And we're just going to put a little bit on this pin. And I want you to notice that there's something that I'm doing that most people would be tempted to do that you shouldn't. You guys pick up on it yet? Notice how I didn't go all the way up to the top here. And there's a reason for that. Because if you put too much, and you get it right on the tip of that pin, what will happen is when you put it back into its home, it'll want to bounce back. Actually, you can tell that I almost put too much. See? Now the rubber is bouncing back. However, if you put too much, you'll get some air trapped up inside here, and it'll always want to make the caliper kind of sit off to the side when you release the brake, and it's going to drag one brake pad, just the one brake pad, but it's going to also cause it to heat up and wear faster than the other. So just a little extra tip, guys, before we kind of get moving with the rest of this video. So keep that in mind when you service your own brakes at home. And about 10 minutes later, with a little bit of elbow grease and some brushes, and obviously the 80 grit sandpaper, this is what we end up with. It's not perfect. It's nice and smooth all around. These pads turn out much nicer than I expected. Actually, they're nice and smooth. There's no glazing over them. Cleaned everything up with some parts cleaner. So now we're ready to assemble this side back onto the car. One last step before we put the rotor back on. I always like to make sure that this is all nice and clean, where there's no rust buildup anywhere, so that the rotor sits nice and square and flat, so that everything runs true and we don't have any chance of maybe warpage in the rotor system. So we're just going to clean that up, then we'll start to assemble it. Alright, so a blob of anti-corrosion compound on that holding screw so that we don't ever have to worry about drilling this out later. I'd rather put lots of that. And we're going to torque it to good and tight. There we are. And that can be followed by the bridge. And you guys kind of get the idea here. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. And we're going to definitely put on our summer tires. But let's move forward to how to service the back, because that's what you guys are really here for. And we're going to torque these when the car is back down on the ground with a torque wrench. Nice to see the original rims back on, no? Okay, so we're back in the car, and using the key, I pulled the little start button that's in the dash. Just makes it easier. We're going to place our key into where the start button goes and turn it on to the first position. Now after that, we're going to make sure that our screen over here is set to the mileage, which we are currently set to the mileage right now. And then we're going to simply push down on two buttons to do this. So we're going to press the phone button and the OK button. You're going to want to press the phone button slightly before and just hold it. That'll access our brake service. So there we go. So now from here we can scroll down with our arrows right into pad replacement, and then you're going to press OK. So what you also have to do, and I forgot about this part, you have to manually release the brakes. So we're going to try it one more time. Now it's going to say moving to fitting position, and that's what we want. And it's going to completely open up the rear caliper. And there you have it. That's what we were looking for. We never had to use a scanner tool for this, which is fantastic. Now, let's get to the back and let's get those pads replaced. So now, with those two caliper bolts removed, with very little effort, you could remove the caliper, and you can do the same thing. We're going to secure the caliper to the suspension components with a tie wrap so that it doesn't hang by the wires. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did earlier, cleaning up the disc, cleaning up the pads, reassembling it. And at that point, we're going to go back in the car and I'm going to show you how to set up the car, ready to go to hit the road. Come on, Bolt, just come out. Aha. There you go. All right. Now, let's go inside and let's get the car ready for the actual open road. And if you're happy with the work you've done, you got your brand new brakes in the back, everything's nice and clean, all you're going to need to do at this point is hit OK, and then that'll exit the position from where you're at, and it's going to set the car up to right where you want it. So now it's fitting the brakes to where they're supposed to be. Then you just press OK to confirm, and then if you press back, you'll be entered right back into your home screen, and that will be the end of that. So that will do it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys found it at very least entertaining, if not educational, especially to those guys out there that have newer Mercedes like this. So again, thank you for watching, and I will catch you all in the next video.